Hey, get in here. Dallas is about to start.
Welcome to another edition of the Ewing Barbecue Podcast. We have been sporadic this fall because our host Mary has unfortunately had to deal with a fire in Michigan at her business. So she's been cleaning up, taking care of all that. So our regular recordings are sporadic, but we've decided to jump back in whenever we can get a special guest on. And today we have, depending on when you knew her in her career, I'll say all three names. She went from Amy Stoch to Amy Stock-Poynton to actually Amy Stoch.
Stoch.
Welcome. Stoch. S-T-O-C-H, yes. Okay.
Hi.
So, welcome. And Amy, you obviously played Lisa Alden on Dallas in one of the... thought it was kind of a harsh storyline, trying to take poor Christopher from his father, but...
Yeah. You know, it's so interesting. I guess it was, and especially talking with people who know the storyline and followed it at that time. You know, Josh, at that time, I took her from the point of view is that this is my nephew. This is part of me, and I want to know him, and I would like to get to know him. But I guess all along, yeah, she was under JR's wing and did that all kind of what was kind of. And I guess her skulking around the museum, taking pictures of Christopher. Yeah, I guess that's not too normal. But I just remember taking it from the point of view, a more human point of view, a more me point of view, is I really wanted to get to know him. And along the way, you know, she gets sidetracked and she gets taken under the wing, like I said. But ultimately, I think she wins out pretty good.
One of JR's pawns, as William Keck referred to,
yes,
in that panel out in Dallas, which we'll get to all those fan conventions in a little bit, which was a very exciting opportunity to bring everybody together. You had an interesting entrance on Dallas at the Galleria on the ice skating rink. Sliding into Bobby and more like crashing. I guess crashing is already
yeah, it was a real crash. That was not staged. That was a real crash. Because Patrick doesn't ice skate and he didn't want to, so he had his boots on the ice, and here I come. And I love skating. It was quite the first day on the set, trust me. I used to skate all the time as a kid. I mean, that's what we did. Every weekend we'd go to the ice rink and skate. So I knew how to skate pretty well. And I don't know, for some reason I couldn't do the slalom stuff. I just basically crashed into him. And I was supposed to, kind of bump into him, but not the way we did when we pushed right on the ice. And that was kind of fun, actually.
But it probably looked so good that Leonard Katzman or whoever was directing said, we're going to keep it.
Yeah. No, it was fun. And nobody got hurt, which is
sometimes the best moments are unscripted. And they just happen.
Definitely.
But you came in, you kind of, let's backtrack before we get there. Just give a little background where you're from the Midwest, and you.
Who, me personally or Lisa?
No, you personally, yeah.
Me personally, yes. Okay. Yeah, I grew up in Cleveland, Ohio. Actually, a suburb called Euclid, Ohio. I grew up in Cleveland, and please, no one listening, you can all sympathize with me. I have been a Browns fan since I can remember. So yeah, we'll just drop that there. Also, fan of the UK. Trust me, I know. And it's ongoing, isn't it? It's just ongoing. And at the time they were the Cleveland Indians. Now they're the Cleveland Guardians. And I am still a huge fan of them and really quite proud of them last season. So yeah, I grew up in Cleveland, Ohio. It was it's an interesting city. It has been through so many renaissances, and I love my hometown. I do.
And as a Red Sox fan, I'll say you're welcome for letting you have Terry Francona for the many
Okay,
years that you had
thanks.
him.
Yeah, good. Good.
We share the wealth, except with the Yankees. Nobody likes that. You don't hear any musicals
No
called Damn
comment.
Indians,
No
right?
comment. Yes.
But and what pushed you into the business? I know you were on Star Search at one
I
point.
was on Star Search. Yeah. I'm going to backtrack even a lot longer ago than that. I was in second grade. Okay. And for some reason, we had career day in second grade. And I distinctly remember this. I remember my teacher putting on the board different professions, kind of like the game I used to love to play, the Barbie's Key to Fame game. Oh my gosh, loved that game. Anyway, she put all these professions on the board, and one of them was movie star. And second grade, mind you. And I looked at that, and I went home from school that day, and I promptly announced to my parents that I was going to be a movie star, because that's what I picked, in career day. And Josh, it never wavered from there, ever. I studied, I did plays, I sang in choirs, I did all of that. I've got 3 degrees in theater history, BA, MA, and PhD. And so I've been in the business basically since I can remember. The whole Star Search thing, that's what you originally asked me. Now, Josh, I'm a little older, so my mind kind of wanders. So, every once in a while, you got to get me back on track.
For the last one.
That's one truth. Okay, so I'm going to give you the Reader's Digest version, the rundown. So after I graduated from Ashland College with my BA, I went to New York City, and I studied for a year at ADA, American Academy of Dramatic Arts. Went home to Cleveland because I didn't know what I wanted to do. Started modeling there for 2 years. And man, did we have a good market in Cleveland at that time. That was like 82, 83. Great modeling market. I mean, we did so many cool things. So I got into that again. I modeled as a kid for the Higbee Company because my mom worked there, but got back into it. That moved me to Chicago, where I started modeling and got an agent. Did a commercial, got SAG, Tapped Art Lead. And that's what the Star Search thing came up. My agent said, I've got 2 auditions for you, one for the acting and one for the spokesmodel. Well, for some reason, the acting audition got screwed up and canceled, and I went on the spokesmodel. And I went, okay. And got on the show. Can't believe that still, but wow, what an amazing time. What a great introduction to LA and the world of TV and film. Just being on that show was incredible. And I went up against some statuesquely gorgeous women. But the reason I won so much is because of my theater and my background. They put a microphone in my hand, and I knew how to use it, and I could talk and do all the, commercial intros. So that show really launched my career, because I also met my first agent on that show. She was a judge.
Sue Cameron?
Episode. Yeah, Sue Cameron. Love you, Sue.
Yeah.
She was a judge on the show that I actually lost on in the regular season. She was one of the judges, and I was backstage after the show, kind of, going, saying goodbye to everybody. And this woman walks up to me, and she goes, "Hi, my name's Sue Cameron," and she holds out a card, and she says, "I'm with Leading Artists, and I'd like to represent you." And that was it. That was my start, and that opened up everything. So, yeah.
Thank you, Sue.
Yes, thank you, Sue. Thank you, Star Search. I will, that, like I said, that experience will stay with me as one of the best in my life.
I read somewhere that, did you make a promise to Ed McMahon about fulfilling a PhD, which you eventually did?
Everybody brings that up.
Yeah.
And the first,
it's a good bit of trivia.
It is, yeah. And the person who brought it up was someone when I came to University of Illinois to start my PhD program. one of the professors there reminded me that I had actually said that on Star Search, which I had completely forgotten. I wasn't thinking that. I no clue. So yeah, I guess I did tell Ed McMahon that eventually I would like to get my PhD in theater, and by gosh, I actually did it. Yeah, in 2012, graduated from the University of Illinois. Go Illini. And got my PhD in theater history, theory, and criticism. So pretty cool.
You have quite the educational background here going in.
Yeah.
And you mentioned before we went on.
Love the theory. Go ahead. Sorry.
Oof. Oh, that's good. That's good. Good information. But you mentioned that before you went on, we went on that when you got to LA, one of your first roles was on Knots Landing, where you, being a spin-off of Dallas, you played a young Valine. So in a sense, you actually played Charlene Tilton's mother in a flashback, because Charlene is Valine's daughter on Dallas. So talk about ties to future role and a future show that you were on.
Yeah. That's, what's so cool about all of that, though, is that happens more than people think. You really, that kind of coincidence, that kind of tying together, that happens more than you think. And that was really cool. That was my first, not my first job in LA, but my first guest star on a major show. That was it. And I would played her in a flashback when she was the waitress in the diner. I didn't have any lines. I think all I had was a look, right? Josh, remind me, somebody walks in the diner and I fall instantly in love and I have this look, right? Or something. And I remember it was, the camera was back further and then I'm supposed to turn and they zoom right in on my face. That was a pretty cool little gig. So to start that off, that was cool.
And a funny bit of trivia is when you did the Hollywood show, which was was that one of your first fan
pretty
conventions?
Much. Yeah, that was a couple of years ago or something.
Yeah, there were 25 members of the cast of Dallas there.
Yes.
You were seated down near the replica of the South Fork living room, which James Yarnell did amazing job on that.
Yeah.
But right across from
that whole Dallas alley, that was pretty cool.
With the big archway and everything there.
Yes, this is pretty neat.
But right across from you was seated Maeve Nutter, who played in that same season, when Valine was working as the waitress in Tennessee, and she was having those flashbacks. He played the man that tried to marry her, so you were kind of seated right across from. And if I had known at the time, if I had remembered at the time that you had played a young Valine, I would have dragged you down to Joan Van Ark and gotten a picture of the two of you together.
I know. And when we were there in Dallas this summer, I knew she was there. I knew she was so busy. I really wanted to go up to her and say, "Hi, I played you long time ago."
I'm a young you.
Yeah, I'm a young you. But she was always so busy, and I was kind of busy, and I never really got the chance to reconnect with her. I'll tell you one thing, when I was on the set all those years ago and I was introduced to her, she was so lovely. She said, she's too pretty to play me as a young person. I went, wow, this is Joan Van Ark telling me I'm too pretty to play her. She was adorable.
High praise, yes.
Yes, because she was, she's just beautiful and wonderful. So
that was great having the Knots Landing people there. Donna, who looks amazing at 85, and Linda Gray at 85.
I know, they're all beautiful, and I'm like, wow, I got to do some stepping up, don't I? I got to go home and take care of myself a little bit better. I don't know. So yeah, it's kind of cool.
But you moved on from nothing. At one point, you were on Days of Our Lives as England, a former KGB agent.
Britta.
Did you have to speak with an accent?
No, I played Britta, and that was before Dallas.
Yes.
Days of Our Lives was my first regular role.
Well, that was your
so-
first regular role. Okay.
Yes, yeah,
Okay.
that was before Dallas, before Bill and Ted too.
But after Knots Landing. So yeah, after Knots Landing.
Yes, yeah,
Yes.
yeah. So yeah, like I said, when I got leading artist as my first agent and Sue Cameron, Patricia Richardson, oh my gosh, I went out like 3, 4, 5 times a day on stuff. It was very busy back in the late 80s. And Days of Our Lives came up. Here's another fun audition story. Sorry, I'm going to talk a lot about audition stories because I got a million of them. Josh got a million of them. So I won't go into personal detail, but I had just had surgery for the first time in my life ever. I had just had surgery. My mom came out to help me, recover and walk around. And I got an audition. And it was not one that I, could easily turn down. This was one of those that happened quite a bit back then, where they just went, we have this part, we want these people, and that's it. You're coming in to read. And then the next step would be a, on-screen test. So yeah, the first audition, we were on set and reading, and I could barely stand up straight yet from my surgery. So that was an issue. And we did a screen test. And my mom was there in the makeup room. Again, I remember so many wonderful things having my mom there, thank goodness. But in the makeup room, and you're there with everyone else who's auditioning for the same part. There were like 3 or 4 other women at this point, and it was down to like the last 5 of us or whatever. And
the ones that could barely stand, and the rest.
Yes, I couldn't even stand up straight yet. Can we just relax on me just a little bit? Anyway, got more of those, but we'll not go there. So I'm in my makeup chair and she's doing my makeup, and I had, stick straight hair my whole life. You could not put a curl in my hair to save my life. So I had this long, like longish, straight blonde hair with bangs, and everyone else, they were all blonde, and they all, they had the big curly, beautiful hair. And here I am looking like their kid sister with the straight hair. And my mom said, why don't you let them put colors in? You've got to, I said, no, I want this because it was different. Okay. I might have been the wrong choice. Yeah, it might have been the wrong choice. I don't know, but that's who I was. And I went, no, this is it. And I went out and had the screen test with Steven, and he was great. And yeah, I got the role. And wow, was that a tough job, man. That was a tough day. Being on a daytime soap is hard work. My calls were always 6 a.m. You go to a dry block and then a camera block, and then you have lunch, and then you have a full-on dress rehearsal where they change every word you're ever going to speak. They do all the rearranging in the script and expect you then to go out and shoot that. So, and then
that's 5 days a week, right?
Well, yeah, not for me. It was my busiest time was 3 or 4 days a week, but sometimes it was just 1 or 2, which is fine. But you get the script the night before, and you're there memorizing 30 pages, shoving it into your brain, and then going out and, having to go the next day and rehearse it through. Right, exactly. So, exactly. And that was seriously, that was the toughest job I think I've ever had. And, and then it's gone like that. It's gone like that. If someone paid me a lot of money to sit down and go, what is one line you said on Days of Our Lives? I'd be like, I don't know. No idea. Because you're feeding it into your brain, and then it just goes as quickly. And the acting was very quick. So you got in, you got involved, you got out. Yeah, go ahead. Sorry.
You did leave there with a parting gift, a husband.
Yes, yeah, he played my killer. Britta was an interesting. Yeah,
I killed her and I married her.
He did. Britta was an interesting character. She was a KGB undercover spy. They had this whole this is where, they only had, Stephen, Bo. My first day on the set, I was in bed with both, first Stephen and then Bo, and flashback scenes. It was like the crew was like, you should put a ticker tape next to your bed and have people take a number. I'm like, okay.
Like a deli
Peter
counter.
Reckles,
Well, now serving number 2. Now serving number 3.
Britta. Yeah, now serving number 2. Britta, hop in there. And that's how I met Peter Reckles. He's like, hi, I'm Peter, I play Bo. I said, hi, I'm Amy, I'm playing Britta. Hop in, let's get going.
And he ended up on Knots Landing.
Yeah, well, but that's the world of soap. So they didn't have any other backstory except that we had all worked in the spy ring together. I was KGB undercover, all that blah, blah, blah. Because they don't write it out. They just tell you this is what's happening, and then they take it forward from there. So being a trained actor, thank goodness, I would go home and I kept a journal as Britta. I wrote personally, this is how I know him, this is how I feel about them, this is what I did. I did a whole backstory for Britta, which started to come out in my interpretation. So actors out there, always do your homework, man. Always do your homework. Okay, maybe I'm obsessive, but that's what I liked to do because I had no idea who she was. I had to create her.
Did that lead to you writing backstories for yourself or other roles that you did as well?
Yeah. I not as extensively as that. Not as extensive.
Right.
Because they gave me nothing as a backstory. So, I had to figure out why I was in bed with 2 different men, why I was a KGB spy. I had to figure all that out. And then with Britta, I was with Stephen, who was the bad guy, Patch. He was the bad guy, quote unquote. And I was a bad girl. And obviously you can't have in Soapland the bad guy and the bad girl romantically together forever, not as a couple. So one morning
Boris and Natasha here.
Yeah, really. I show up to the set and I meet this new woman who's going to play Kayla Brady, I think is their last name. She's going to be new lover interest for Steve. And I went, okay, that's it. I'm out. I called my agent and said, we better start looking at auditions again because Britta's out of here. Because you can't have the bad guy with the bad girl. Got to have the bad guy with the good girl, right? So I knew at that point I was probably going to leave. So that's bringing it around to how I met Bob. They had me on the dock. I got a couple of threatening phone calls, and then there was a hand with a gun, and I get shot on the dock, and I'm bleeding out, and I'm dying, and I died. And then Pamela Kosh, who played Miss Peach at the time, wonderful, this wonderful British lady, so cool, love her. Hello. After we were all shooting that day, she literally called Bob on one side, me on the other. She stood in the middle and she said, exchange phone numbers. She was like playing dating game or something. So we did.
Swap phone numbers with your killer.
Yeah. Well, that's what I say all the time. Yeah. He gave me a couple dirty phone calls. He shot me and then we met for dinner. It's like, yeah, that's how we met. So, and we were married.
Out of murder comes love.
Yes. Yeah, that was pretty what.
And at what point from there did you transition to Dallas? Was it how long after that?
Oh, yeah. Oh God, Josh,
I know you turned up on Matlock. Yeah. You turned up on Matlock, Hardcastle, McCormick, Dynasty.
Yeah. Those were Matlock was later. Hardcastle, McCormick was before. Dynasty was before Dallas. So okay, so after Days of Our Lives, and I was shot and killed, and I came back as a ghost. I don't know, for one more day or something. It was at that point. Yeah, well, at least they didn't keep me up in an attic or, in a shower scene. Get the shower scene?
Duffy.
Yeah, exactly.
Patrick.
So at least,
Sorry.
I was there at James Lodge set doing that one day. And that's when I got the phone call from my agent that I had gotten the part of Missy in Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure. And so that's when I did, hold on.
Sexy stepmother.
Yeah. Exactly. With no chest, but we'll get there. So after Days of Our Lives, I did a couple more things. And then in that spring of what was 86, 87, spring of 87, we shot Bill and Ted's. Then in May or June, oh, this is another long story. Here we go. I'll try to keep it short. Okay, so here comes the Dallas thing. In May or I can't remember. I think it was May. Bob was on a game show a couple of years before called Press Your Luck, the old Press Your Luck. And he had won some great things. One of them was a Greek cruise. So in May, we're all set to take this Greek cruise. And I have, being a theater person, I was, oh my God, I'm going to the Mecca of theater. I'm going to Greece. And so we were all packing, getting ready to go for the Greek cruise. And then an audition comes in, which is Murphy's Law. The actors, Murphy's Law happens constantly. You go out of town, you get an audition. You're sick, you get an audition. You go home to visit your parents for the first time in 6 months, you'll get an audition, that kind of thing. So, yeah, I got an audition for Dallas. And I was like, wow, okay. And again, it was another one of those. Barbara's only calling in 10 different people. The role, they're already shooting in Dallas. This is a quick casting. Your one audition, we're going to tape you. At that time, that was very uncommon. They put us on videotape. Then you're going to get hired and go. Okay. So I'm in the waiting room in the office waiting to audition for Lisa, for this part. And next to me is a girl that we've since become best friends or very good friends, Becky Bush. She was also there auditioning for Lisa. We would see each other a lot on auditions because we looked alike. So we're sitting there and we're talking and I go, I don't know how we're going to do this because I'm supposed to leave in a couple of days for a Greek cruise. And she said, well, I don't know how I'm going to do it either because I'm supposed to leave tomorrow for Hawaii to get married. We're just like, okay. Because that's what you did. You could never, first of all, why cancel all your plans on a maybe? You don't.
Well, you got to live your life.
Exactly. Or you try to. You try to. And, exactly. So, yeah. Okay. So we all audition. I go home. Bob and I we're on the plane. We're flying to the Greek cruise. We're on our ship. And we're docked. We're staying in Athens for one night before the ship takes off. FYI, it was the coldest season in Athens in 2,000 years. It snowed on the Acropolis, and I had summer clothes. Just, that was a fun thing. We get on the cruise.
Murphy's Law.
Jeez, everything is freaking Murphy's Law. I want to meet Murphy.
Who is this Murphy? Who is this Murphy?
Oh, dude. Exactly.
I want to slap you in the face, Murphy.
We're on the ship and the ship's going like this, and I am not a good ship person. It's it's not a big, huge cruise ship. It was a private yacht at one point for the King of Greece. And it was so it was small. It was nice, but the seas were so rough. I was in the cabin wanting to vomit and Bob was out because he has a stomach like a rock. He was out holding on with one hand and pulling the slot machine with the other. So he was about the only one. So that's the way that cruise went. And at one point, no, he didn't. But anyway, he won the cruise. But anyway, at one point I get a note or a telegraph from the captain's office on the top of the ship. And it said, come to the captain's office. We have a telegraph for you. And I went, okay. So we go up to the captain's office up there, I get the telegraph. That's how long ago this was. We had no cell phones, none of that, folks. I get a telegraph. On there, it says, call your agent. That's all. Call your agent.
Okay,
And I
Murphy's Law
went,
again.
oh, I think I just got the roll on Dallas. Yeah. So obviously there's no ship to shore. There was nothing. We were in Greece. I didn't speak Greek. We land on Rhodes, the island of Rhodes, and Bob and I are immediately, we're running around trying to find not only a phone, but someone who speaks English. We get to a hotel. There's this lovely phone, and I knew our difference. It was like 4 or 5 in the morning in LA. So I wasn't going to call my agents. I knew that they probably would have called my mom, who lived in Cleveland, so 3 hours later. So I called her and I said, "Hi, Mom, it's Amy. I'm calling from Greece." The first words out of her mouth were, "Did you know you got Dallas?" And I went, "Yeah, I'm safe. I'm over here in Greece. Good to hear your voice." That was all she could think of. So yeah, I had her call my agents and saying, "Yes, I will accept the part." I'm in the middle of the Greek Isles. Bob and I had to leave the ship in Istanbul. And at that time, that was not a safe place to leave the ship on your own. So we had to fly out of Istanbul to Rome, Rome to New York, New York to LA. I think I had maybe a few days to do laundry, unpack, pack, and get down to Dallas and shoot that first scene on the ice rink. So that's how that all came about. That was one.
And how familiar were you with Dallas? Were you a viewer? Did you?
Yeah, well,
everybody knew who shot JR.
Well, I watched. Yeah, we all watched. Back when the show first started in college, we were glued to the first couple of years, and that whole "Who Shot JR" thing. Yeah, but once I graduated from college and I was in New York going to school, and then busy on my own, I lost track of the show. I didn't watch much TV.
You have a social life. You got things going.
Well, yeah, it wasn't much that, but I was just, I don't know why, but I lost track of the show. And then all of a sudden, here I am auditioning for it and getting on it as a part. And I just, that was unbelievable. My mom, I think she never stopped beaming the whole time I was on that show. They used to have premiere parties for all my stuff that I used to do. They used to throw a party and, watch it on TV. So she loved it. And they had, for the 250th episode party, we had a big barbecue at South Fork when we were all down there.
And I've seen a huge picture of all of you cutting the cake. You're all gathered. I've seen that picture before.
That was, oh God, that was so much fun.
In fact, I'm gonna go look for that picture and I'm gonna insert it when I edit this.
Cool. Okay. Cool.
Yeah.
No, it was. Oh gosh, it was so much fun, and I had my parents come down. They got to walk around South Fork. That was really cool. I got to do that for my parents. So
now, you told a story in Dallas about you thought you were going to be this love interest for Bobby, and then something happened in the dressing room, and it was like, okay, no, we're gonna turn the story this way or something. What was that? What happened?
Well, that's my take on it. Okay, it might have been different, but this is all what I observed. Yeah. Like I said,
our take is our own reality. So
yes, exactly. Yes, exactly. I'd like to change my reality sometimes, but we won't go there either. But gosh, I had not met any of them. Like I said, the audition process was so fast, and it was put on tape, and so we didn't get to meet or read with anybody in person back then.
So you went in.
I did. And I went down and we were in the hotel in the costuming department, in the costuming rooms. And that's when I first met Patrick. And he comes in and we introduce each other. some of the first words out of his mouth were, "Wow, she looks like my kid sister." What? Oh, inside of me went, okay, yeah, this isn't gonna last long. Wow. All right. So, and like I said down there, like I told people down at the convention in Dallas, I said, I really don't think they don't, and I'm pretty sure about this, but they don't have your whole storyline written out. They have to wait and see how it goes. They introduce the character, they introduce some ideas for the character, and then fans start writing in fan mail. Yes, I like this. No, I hate this. No, I don't like this person. And that's when they start to morph your storyline. So the storyline is always evolving, just seeing how it goes. Okay. It's different than if you're on a finite 1 hour episodic or a finite film. Okay. These are continuous episodes that keep going for how, who knows how long. So they can't really give you definites. They have to see how the chemistry works. And if it's not, then they have to come up with something. And I think that's why they brought in pretty much JR in the middle of all of that. Or yeah, in the middle of all of that. I think they knew that wasn't going to work out. It was a finite thing at that point. And was I upset about that? No. But how could I ever be? I had an amazing.
You got to be a part of an amazing show for 16 episodes.
Yeah. And yes, would I have liked to stay on and become a regular for another couple of years? Of course. That's not what was happening. And I was okay. That's what you do as an actor. You're like, I love this. I love working on this. It's over now. What's next? Show me what's next. I'm out to look for that.
And talk about, I know you worked with Patrick, you worked with Larry, Ken Kercheval. You had a scene with Barbara where you dropped Christopher off at the house and you got to meet Barbara.
Yeah.
And of course, Josh Harris, the little Christopher.
Yeah.
Talk about your experiences working with that group of people.
Oh, wow. Okay.
I just try to encapsulate all of that into it and then let you go.
Really? All I can. Okay, here we go. Patrick, nicest guy. Loved working with him. Love his smile. Such a great guy. Larry, yeah, he's an icon, but he's also my colleague. Very helpful. Really liked working with Larry. Okay. Barbara Bel Geddes. Oh my God, even a bigger icon. And there I am standing in front of her, doing a scene with her. And yeah, but again, we're in a scene together and we are now equals in this scene, right? So we work together. She complimented me after our scene, and I will never forget that either. She said, "You're a very good actress." I went, I wanted to, part of me inside was just melting. So she was amazing. Joshy, little Josh Harris. Oh my gosh. Unbelievable actor for that age. Come on. The emotions he gave me, the giving as an 8-year-old. I was really amazed. I love everybody on that show. I think everybody was a very good actor, but Josh at 8 years old, he's the one who really impressed me the most. How do you do that at 8 years old or 9 years old? Going through that kind of storyline. It's really cool. That's why my favorite scene is the last one with him, because where I tell him that I'm leaving and I'm saying goodbye. Really great scene. And he was right there with me.
Yep.
And then I see him 30 years later and he's at the Hollywood show. We come up and they both stare me at my table and I just went, gotta be kidding me. So.
And he has a kid of his own now.
Yes.
But,
yeah.
What was that whole experience like at the Hollywood show? Just seeing all those people, and even people that you didn't share scenes with, but you had that camaraderie of shared experience of being on Dallas.
Yeah, that was wild. Yeah, that was the first major show I can remember doing. I did one many, many years ago when I was still in LA and still a younger actress. I did one show. I never really got into them, but when I was contacted about the Hollywood show and that there's going to be a whole Dallas corridor, I went, yeah, I'm there. Great. It was
That was
cool. I went up.
that was took over the show.
Yeah, well, yeah. And it was, like I said, it was just so neat. And, I got to say hi to Patrick and give him a big hug and get a picture taken with him. And like I said, Josh and Omri, I was literally at my table and I was looking down, signing something. And I look up and there are these two beaming faces right there. And they went, you played Lisa, right? And I said, yeah. And that was it. I ran around the table and just got scooped up by both of them. A big hug. It was so fun. So that was really fun. And then, across my table, across the aisle, Rosalind was there. And Rosalind and I, many years ago, were on an Always commercial together where they flew us all to Hawaii. Oh, please tell me about it. Can I do that again, please? Hello, universe. Can I be hired for a commercial and be flown to Hawaii and treated like a queen? And then, anyway. So we did an Always
What a
commercial.
rough job.
Rosalind was in there. So we reconnected, which was really fun because I had no idea she was also on Dallas. No idea. And and then it was packed. The people who made it down, I wasn't swamped, no, because I wasn't very popular on that show. And a lot of people didn't remember my character. They all wanted, the more recognizable characters, which was fine because I had a blast just sitting there and watching everybody. And so that was kind of an interesting experience.
And it was amazing just seeing the cast members reconnecting, and it was like a high school reunion almost. And being there myself with the podcast team, we just kind of made our way around. I was basically photographing everybody with everybody in different combinations. Being there, though, and seeing people, was there anyone that you wish you had ever shared scenes with or been in a project together with because I know you were on the same season as somebody like Jack Scalia, who was there as well. And
yeah, this is the Hollywood show, right? This is the one.
The Hollywood show, yeah.
Yeah. Gosh, I don't think about that while I'm shooting on a show. I just follow my storyline and whoever they tell me to, be in a scene with. I will tell you, and oh gosh, his name is escaping me right now. I cannot believe this. Maybe you'll remember. My lawyer for the court stuff on Dallas, he was the guy in West Side Story, the film. Oh, what was his name?
Was that Richard Vamer?
Right. Yes, yeah. Wasn't that? I think that's who that was.
I was trying to figure that out last night. I think he played Ben Horn on Twin Peaks as well.
I think he played.
He was on Twin Peaks as well.
Yeah. So I got to do a scene with him, and kind of fangirl in the distance a little bit, but no, not really.
And that's very similar to Charlene when she had to share scenes with Nicholas Hammond on Dallas, and she was a huge Sound of Music fan, and she fangirled the entire time that they were on set together.
It's pretty cool.
Very similar.
To meet people like that. I wish I had worked with Linda Gray a little bit more. She directed an episode that I did, and I had the pleasure this summer at the Dallas convention this summer. I had the pleasure to talk with her a little bit more, and I got to tell her that she was one of the best directors on that show, and she was absolutely flabbergasted. And I went, "No, really, were."
High praise.
Well, I didn't, and I didn't mean it. I was very sincere, and I didn't overdo it because she really was. I felt very comfortable with her on set as an actor. I felt she was very involved with the action that was going on. Whereas some directors, not just on Dallas, but some directors are not as giving as that. They're more into, is this shot look good? Is this right? Or she was very involved in actually the interpretation, which I really appreciated.
And I think it's probably a different experience when you have an actor that's directing versus someone that solely directs, because the actor sees it from both sides because they are in front of the screen and now they're going behind the screen. Is that something you'd
Yes, I would totally agree with that because I think yes, they are. Of course, they have to be aware of the technical, the shot, the framing, the light, all of that stuff. But then there is that actor's instinct in them where they go, okay, let's hear the scene, let's rehearse it, let's look at what we can do together. And they do. Yeah. I think actors make very good
Right.
directors.
Have you ever had a desire to direct?
I've directed stage before, yeah. And I was for a short year and a half, I was company manager of a local theater company here in Champaign Urbana. I was manager of CUTC. Learned so much on that job about the business of running a theater company. Yeah, I've directed stage plays. I did a couple of student films, which was fun. That was a cool experience. Yeah.
So, so it's good. So it's good giving your input into the developing of someone who's a student trying to find their way
Yes.
into business.
Yeah.
But the South Fork event was quite interesting. It must have been interesting for you to be back down there. And had that been the first time? I remember we were riding over in the van to the cocktail party, and we're in the back bouncing over the roads as we're going along. I think we have Deb Trinelli and some of the others in there
Yeah. Yeah.
But what was it like being back on the ranch again? I know you took some time to walk around the ranch. You got that
I did.
photo as I was doing my little tour.
Yes, I love that photo. I love that picture of you. I just thought that was so cool that you're like in this beautiful alley of these gorgeous trees and you're just walking with your camera. I love that picture of you.
And I have,
Yeah,
and
no,
I did post that video of the whole tour up
yes,
on YouTube.
yeah,
So
I saw that. Being back at South Fork, yeah, no, I had not been back since we shot on that, specifically to South Fork. Just seeing the house again and the grounds, and since I left the show, they added all of that, that big convention center thing and all the restaurants. I had not seen any of that. Basically, I walked in and I looked at that one. Yeah, okay. No, I want to walk the actual grounds,
right,
the
stables.
house, going, yeah, just going upstairs and seeing the amazing bedroom up there and the house itself and the pool area where I shot that scene with Barbara. And then for the cocktail party, here's why I wore what I wore, which was my jeans and a really nice top, but that was, and my tennis shoes. First of all, I knew it was a cocktail party, and maybe I should have gotten dressed up a little more. But the thing I brought, the nice dress up thing I brought, looked horrible, and I was in my hotel room going, I look fat, I look horrible, I can't wear that. So I stuck to my jeans and just a shirt and my tennis shoes, and I'm very, very glad I did because I wanted to walk the grounds. I wanted to see the memorial they have there for Larry and for Barbara and for yeah, they had that memorial kind of set up, and then they had a mule, so I went to say hi to the mule and the whole front lawn, that whole area and the trees. I just wanted to walk by myself and absorb what had happened there and what I had been a part of. And then, of course, went into the cocktail party, and it was just crowded and wonderful. And I got to talk to a lot of people. But that was the time to myself to just go, wow, I did that. I did this. And that was pretty cool.
Yeah, it's like I remember my first time down there in 2008 when they had an event, and I'm walking around, and there's Audrey Landers and just people, and I'm just going, God, I'm on the place where this all took place, and you just have to. It can almost be overwhelming just the first time you're there, going, wow, so much history happened here, and
it could be overwhelming for someone who was on the show too. It really was.
Yeah.
It was nice.
And
have that.
And even the fans, just the fans that have kept the show alive over the years, and the gift that keeps on giving, as Patrick calls it.
Yeah.
Speaking of a gem.
Huh?
A second. Oh, no, go ahead. I was just Catching up on my
The
notes
fans.
here.
Let's talk about the fans, the people who were there at the convention this summer, because I want to give a huge shout out to all of them. I mean, we had people from all over the world coming down to this convention, purposely traveling to this convention just to be a part of it. And the one comment I kept getting was, "You're all so very nice. You're all so real. You're all just real." I said, "Yeah, well, yeah, because we're real people. We love what we do, and we love that you love what we do. You keep us going. You keep the spirit of this going." And a shout out to all of you, because I enjoyed talking with every single one of you. I enjoyed the dinners and the breakfasts and the pictures and the panel, all of that. I felt a part of something really amazing, and I felt your energy. I felt it, and it fed me as someone who still has her toe in the business and would like to obviously work more, but is not. And I needed that. My soul needed that. And I am so grateful for that energy, and just want to say thank you.
And I know that panel was great. You had Barry Corbin was a part of that, and Janine Turner and Andrew Stevens, and just the whole. But before we wind up, just touch on a couple other things. You had the opportunity to play James Arness's daughter in some Gunsmoke movies, and yes. I know Jim Davis ended up on Gunsmoke at one point.
Yep.
But talk about that experience. Obviously, that probably got you on a horse too.
Got me on a horse. Got to herd cattle. Got to be on a ranch. Got to be in Texas and New Mexico and Arizona and all these amazing places. And Gunsmoke. Wow.
Legend. James Arness.
Sorry. Yeah. My dad and I would watch Gunsmoke on TV every Sunday night. He was a big fan. And at that time, it was a Western. I loved Westerns. And we would just watch it and whatever. And again, segue 20 some odd years later, and here I am cast as James Arness's daughter, Beth Dillon. And it was an incredible experience. That first one in particular was down in Lejitas territory in Texas and in San Antonio and around there. And again, my parents came to the set, and Josh, I got to introduce my dad to Jim Arness. And it was like watching a 9-year-old boy meeting his matinee idol. My dad just was so thrilled that he got to shake hands with him and talk about their World War II vet experience, because they were both, World War II veterans, both wounded in the war, and they got to share that experience. And just being with those iconic actors. First of all, James Arness, unbelievably nice guy. I can't say enough about him. I just can't, I don't ever idolize or fangirl while I'm on set, because I'm hired as a colleague. I am. And I took it like that. But when you're working with James Arness, and Michael Learned played my mother, and on one episode we had Ally McGraw and James Brolin, and we had Bruce Boxleitner, and we had so many actors. And what was really cool is that when they started these movies of the week, which is what they were, they would call in old character actors from the original series. So all of a sudden, here's like this one guy playing a sheriff, and he walks up to Jim and goes, "Hi, Jim," and it was like they were old friends. Jim knew every single one of them. He remembered all of them. So being able to watch these iconic character actors just doing their thing, it was such an amazing lesson for a young actress. Such an amazing lesson. And again, like you said, I got to shoot rifles at the bad guys. I got to ride in an original 1880s stagecoach. I mean, a real one from the 1880s. And being a historian, I was I'm freaking out. I got to herd cattle, like I said, and what else did I get to do? So yeah, and horses, of course. Oh, and I got to be dragged behind a horse in the first episode because I was being kidnapped by, very good looking Apache. Wow, was he very good looking. Anyway, and I got to wear, the iconic leather tunic as an Apache woman would have worn, and the boots. I got to be in a fist fight. And I remember saying on the first episode, the first one we did, is that I wanted to do as many stunts as they were going to let me do. I had no idea at that time that my stunt person got paid for every stunt. So it was kind of costing her some money, which I'm so sorry about. But I wanted to do it because I hate when you're looking at a shot and you can tell when the stunt double comes in. I think that just ruins the magic. So I wanted to do as much as possible.
Takes you out of the moment.
Kiley, it does. But Richard Kiley, he's on top of his horse. There was one scene where I'm supposed to be escaping the Apache camp, and he comes riding in, and he says, "Get on up here, girl." And I run, and I'm supposed to, he hauls me up on the back end of the horse. I almost got there. Almost. And I'm laying on the back end of the horse, and the guy yells, "Cut!" And he says, "I think we need the stunt double here." I said, "Yep, yeah, I'm good. Go ahead." But to be in a scene with Kylie, and just anyway, I am just geeking out right now. And Josh, I'm sorry, I'm talking a lot. I didn't think about all of that when I was going through it. You can't, like I said, you cannot fan while you're going through it. You just can't. And everybody throughout my career is going, "Oh, you did this. Wow, that. And I'm like, yeah, that was great. Now, looking back as an older woman, looking back on these experiences, and I'm like, wow, I got to do that. I got to work with these iconic people and Dallas, Days of Our Lives, Gunsmoke. I mean, Bill and Ted, for Christ's sake, that has become an iconic film series, and I got to be a part of all of that. So yeah, now I'm fangirling. So there you go.
And that's like Josh Harris when we were talking in the podcast. He said he didn't realize at the time the magnitude of Barbara Bel Geddes' career, or Howard Keel, and he just thought of her as grandma. That's like grandma with cookies and soup and stuff like that. And then years later,
and she probably made him feel like that too. She probably made him feel like that.
Everyone
was probably that welcoming.
Everyone said she had that warm presence and everything. But and one other interesting role I came across, you played Fawn Hall in Guts and Glory: The Rise and Fall of Oliver North. And before I ask you about that, I point out that my uncle was actually on the Iran-Contra committee that questioned Oliver North. So it's my little connection to that whole part of history. So.
Okay.
But
that's cool. That's cool. That is really neat to know.
And touch on that before we, I guess it's like part of history that you were.
It is. Yeah. They needed a lookalike for Fawn Hall. They did not want her playing herself, which she so desperately wanted to do. But she didn't, and they needed a lookalike, so I did. I resembled her. Pretty much why I got the role. Filming that was interesting because on set we had strict rules that there was to be no hint of anything sexual or romantic between Fawn Hall and Oliver North. They were strictly working colleagues, and she was doing what she thought was right for him. So we were very schooled on that. We had to be. We were doing something that was fresh in the history, very controversial, and we had to be protected. We had to be legally protected. We could have, every word or every gesture we could have been sued over. So that was an interesting thing. But overall, we shot in Washington, D.C. We shot some location scenes. And just to be a part of that controversial thing was pretty cool because I couldn't put in any of my own opinion on that. Any, because I wasn't playing me. I wasn't playing a fictional character. I was playing someone who was very much real and alive and very involved in, watching what was happening. So that was a very unique exercise for me as an actor, and it was really cool. And I liked it. And Dave was great. Great. We had a good time. And the guy remember that guy I told you about who killed me, murdered my character on Days of Our Lives, and then I married? Remember him?
Yeah, that one. Yeah.
I got him in the ballroom scene. I got him to be a featured extra in the ballroom scene. So he's there saying hi to me and whatever. Yeah, that's pretty cool. So
a wiggle room there, yeah. So, and what are you up to these days as we wind up here, coming up on our hour?
What am I up to? Good question. I am, and I'm proud to say I'm 67 years old and still trying. I'm still trying. I hope I never give up trying. I love acting. I love the study of it, the history of it. Like I said, I have a PhD. I'm a full-time faculty member at AMDA, Performing Arts College out in Hollywood. I teach everything online, async. My classes are the GE courses that a lot of students have to take to graduate, and some of them take them because they really are interested in the course. I teach politics and plays of the 1960s and 70s. That's my favorite course because that's my time period. All the riots and controversies and movements that happened. And I teach plays that highlighted all of that. I teach dramaturgy, podcasting, and lots of interesting courses. So
I've heard of podcasting.
yeah. It's this thing people are doing now. Yeah. So anyway, so I'm doing that. I am doing some writing again, which feels good. I'm starting to try and do some writing again. And I don't know where we're going. I'm in kind of in a small little town in Illinois right now, being with my grown-up son, getting to know him again. Because we had been separated. I was in LA and he was here for many, many years. And it was time. When my classes stayed online for AMDA, they said, yes, you can still be full-time. Thank you, AMDA, and you can move. So I did. And I've been busy the last 3 years trying to get to know him a little bit. And I don't know what's next. I really don't. I am always seeking for what's next. Like I said, I don't ever want to give up because I love what I do.
Hopefully we get you back to some of those more of those Dallas events because we had fun.
That would be so much fun. Josh, I don't make anybody any money when I'm on those things because, like you said, my Dallas character wasn't all that popular. I actually had a guy come up to me at the Dallas convention this summer, and he made a point of just coming up to my table and saying, "I really hated your character, but you did it really well." And I'm like, "Okay, thank you, thanks." So it's fine. I just love being a part of all of that. So
somebody went up to Morgan Brittany, who played Catherine on Dallas, in a supermarket and whacked her with their purse and said, "That's for breaking up Bobby and Pam." And it's like,
okay. First of all, fans, you don't ever touch someone like that.
No, yeah.
Good. But it's okay if you tell me that you hated my character. It means my job was well done.
Exactly. It's create that emotion. I mean, look at Larry Hagman. He went from comedy to drama, and he did both so well. So,
yes, he did.
Any last messages you got for people out there?
Gosh, I don't know. I don't know. And I guess that is my message. I don't know. We never know. We don't know what's coming up. We don't know tomorrow. We just have today. To do things like this with you and to be able to reflect on what I've done and where I hope to go. I don't know where I'm going. I just know that I want to keep going. And I think that's my message to all of you too, is thank you for the love. Thank you for the fandom. Thank you for all of that. And let's just keep doing the good stuff.
There you have it. Amy Stoch on the Ewing Barbecue podcast. Stay tuned for upcoming episodes. Mary is hopefully going to be, I know she started editing our episodes that she had from before her fire, and slowly posting those up online. No, she wasn't there. It was just her business, but thankfully nobody was there at the time, and nobody was hurt. Things can be rebuilt, people can't. And we're just going to keep plugging away, try to bring in some guests as we wait for her to get back online. And we'll catch y'all down the road on the next episode of the Ewing Barbecue Podcast.
Peace out, folks.
Y'all come back now, you hear?